Good morning. It is what is today? Friday, June the 7th, 2024. And I got a lot of sleep last night. It wasn't as restorative as I would like it to have been, but I'm grateful because I think I went to sleep around 9 and I just woke up, and it's about 9 now. So that's pretty good. But anyway, I decided to go live because I wanted to say something about trauma recovery. Now, I think I've made clear over the last year, 2 years. How long have I been making these videos? A year and a half. About a year and a half. That you cannot heal from trauma until the cause of the trauma has been removed permanently. And it's not just about the cause of the trauma being removed. It is the person feeling or knowing with certainty that the trauma has been removed and will not return, because as long as they believe that the trauma still exists or that the potential for the trauma could reoccur, you cannot heal from it. You will always, be triggered, and those things cannot go away. The only thing you can do is cope. And that's what I spent my career doing, is helping people learn how to cope with their trauma and the anxiety that comes with not having that certainty, but removing any trauma we possibly could that they had control over. And, that has always given them and myself a sense of safety, because at least there were aspects of it that could be controlled. But the reason why I'm bringing this up is because, I've talked about this really requirement that there be an offering from people who have caused harm to other people. And at this point, in 2024, there is no one who has not caused harm to another person somewhere, somehow, even though many people were not aware that they were hurting people. Once you become aware, however, you have an obligation and a responsibility to stop it, regardless of what you'll lose in the process. Because if people are not willing to make that sacrifice, then the trauma each person is experiencing themselves will continue, because the people who are responsible refuse to stop for whatever reason. So it will not work unless each person makes the decision to stop whatever they know is creating harm or trauma or terrorism or harassment for other people. The reason why I'm sharing this is because of my own trauma. And I have made very clear that I have to know with certainty that the people responsible for causing my trauma and the trauma of my kids and my husband and the people I care about in my immediate care circle are exposed and identified, and I need to know who it is. I need to know who the person is. There's a reason why our judicial system, before it got so messed up, required that an accuser face the person that they are accusing. But in this case, that's what I'm saying. And the reason is that you want to be able to use your inherent ability to read the person in terms of their body language and what they're saying, and really in their willingness to show remorse and a true desire to rectify whatever it was the person has lost. So really, for me, meeting these people would only have one of two consequences. Either they have an offering and say, I know that I hurt you, or what I did hurt you, but this is what I've been doing. And I can see clearly that they have been doing something, that would counter or stop or prevent the kinds of things from happening to me or anybody else that created the trauma. Or they have no offering, which means that they are being brought forward, or they're coming forward only because they've been caught and they never did stop on their own, of their own volition. And as a result of not having an offering, that person, as far as I'm concerned, is always a risk re-offend or to go back to doing things that will hurt me and hurt other people. And so they have to be dealt with accordingly. And I hope that this makes sense to people and they understand what I'm saying, because I can never heal as long as I know that there are people who continue to believe what they have done is okay, or that they continue to believe that even though what they did was not okay, that it's okay for them to stay hidden with it and for them to not have to face me, so that I can hear from them about why they did what they did. And I really want to know, I mean, I know there are some people who were involved in hurting me who justified it to themselves in whatever way, because they wanted to, be okay with it. And so, you have to, if you have any humanity left in you, you have to be able to tell yourself something negative about the person in order to be able to, do it to the degree that harm is caused. People who cannot do that, they're dead already. You cannot, that is my definition of a dead person, is if you can observe the suffering of another person and not feel compelled to do something about it, to stop it, to help the person, you're dead. If you can look at a person suffering, and that, that goes for media, the kinds of media that you watch. If you can watch, even simulations of, people being hurt or dying or bleeding to death or whatever, then an important aspect of your humanity is dead, or dormant, I guess, for some people. Because there are people who exist who have completely lost all of their humanity. They cannot, they have been conditioned so thoroughly that they just cannot see life in anything. And so they are like the Walking Dead. Like, they don't look like zombies if they don't live in a place where there's urban decay. If they do live in a place where there's urban decay, they probably do look like zombies. But, they can look like, a financial planner in a suit, who is a life broker and who invests in resilience real estate, which is, it's horrible. So anyway, I hope that if you reflect on everything I'm saying and kind of pull them together in a whole context, that you understand what I'm saying. It's not just for me, it's for everybody, but because I have positioned myself in a way to hold as many people accountable as I can get my hands on or on this list, and I will do it, that, people need to understand I am a very forgiving person, but I will never ever trust people who are not willing to face me when they know they personally were responsible for hurting me, and to give their offering. I will receive an offering. Having an offering is helpful, and I hope you understand why having an offering is helpful and what kind of offering you would need in order to, be able to say to me face to face, I am really sorry, and this is how, you can see from this, I really mean it. I really mean it. I'm sorry. I'm not, I don't do those things anymore, and it hurts me to know that you have hurt. And that's what's necessary. People who have that experience with people they accuse, rightfully so, don't need revenge. You may not be able to interact with that person while you heal from what they did, because then you have to process it. Now that you've seen the person and you've talked to the person, all those questions have been answered. And so, you have to, there may be a period of time when they really don't want anything to do with you. It doesn't mean that will always be the case. If you believe in immortality and understand eternity, time heals all wounds. But, without that, it's really difficult for someone to be willing to even have that kind of interaction. I can't even call it a relationship anymore. But more importantly, in 2024, it's because the severity and the mercilessness of the kinds of things that have been done to me, and therefore we know are being done and have been done to other people. You can't trust people like that. And as long as trust is not available or accessible, then the potential is always there for people in their fear or in their own trauma to lash out and, you know, and then kind of start it all over again. It's like a cancer. So you cannot get away with it. You must be held accountable, and you must be willing to prepare an offering for the people you have harmed so that the healing that's needed between you can occur. I hope you all have a good Friday, and I'll talk to you again soon. I wanted to record an addendum to the live that I've done this morning and on trauma and healing. And there are 2 points that I want to make, and I'm hoping that the Persian broom tree and the families that are connected to this tree will hear and understand what I'm saying, and that they'll cooperate so that you know that this is real and you understand me. But I've had a lot of problems with these broom trees. They're beautiful, and every year I wonder whether or not they're going to come back, because they are completely stripped when they're out of season. And so, you know, because of the contamination, I'm also concerned about whether or not they'll be able to recover. But, you know, you can see that they've already bloomed, and that this younger one here, you know, has all the seeds there for it to also begin to bloom. But there are 2 things that I want to mention about trauma, healing, and recovery. And the first is for people to imagine what trauma and recovery would be like in having the kinds of conversations that I'm insisting must happen once people are in a place where people have agreed 100% to do no intentional harm 100% of the time. Here's some more of them. They're all over the place. They have rooted themselves in various places all over the yard. And once a person has been able to regenerate from the damage that was caused, and they're able to live in a situation and circumstances where, you know, they feel healthy, and, you know, they're around the people who, you know, they know and love and who love them, then the recovery in relationships for the kinds of trauma that has been inflicted upon or unintentionally caused someone will be a lot different than when you try to have these kinds of conversations and trauma is still occurring, because there are still other people who have not come to a place where they're willing to stop doing what they do to contribute to the problems, right? So, you know, the other thing that I wanted to say is that as far as, you know, my willingness to ever give this up, you know, because that's part of resilience trading is, you know, can you bounce back? And of course, you know, the Department of Defense doesn't want people to be able to bounce back, because then that means that they still have the potential to comfort them, really, and to comfort them legally, and to comfort them with accuracy, because it's the truth. You know, the truth is an absolute defense 100% of the time. And so, you know, when you think about that, okay, y'all are waking up. You have to understand that once you have been reawakened to your immortality, you don't want to give this up. You don't want to give up the capacity to be able to commune with, you know, family members who aren't in physical form anymore, for example, and to be able to hear them. And you don't want to give that up, you know. So, you know, returning to the false reality that they have created around us to try to get us to continue to accept these abusive conditions, you know, is no longer a problem. You know, it's harder because, you know, as I've said in other videos, I don't enjoy, you know, going to lunch with people anymore, or, you know, or just celebrating in any significant way. I enjoy being with my family and spending time with them and laughing and finding joy whenever I can. But I cannot live in a place where I know people are continuing to be hurt and traumatized and terrorized and fully enjoy it, because I know that there are people who cannot enjoy it themselves, and it's not right. Everyone should be able to enjoy the bounty that nature provides. So, you know, I will, it doesn't matter. I would have to, you know, leave this place physically in order to satisfy the need of the Department of Defense, for example, for people like me to give up, because I'm not, what you're asking me to give up, I just will not. And people who have been awakened and no longer have amnesia about who they are, and and what the potentials are for their life, they're not going to give it up either. Because why would you? I mean, why would you give that up in favor of, this and this? Well, not chili, but you understand what I'm saying? The noises that you can hear in the background, and these wires, and why would you give up this for that? Why? It makes no sense, right? So I just want you to consider what I'm saying and understand that things would be a lot easier for everybody, for the work that needs to be done, for paradise to be restored, if people would just be willing to believe in what is real and to give up what is not. All right, here's the last thing that I'm going to say about trauma healing and recovery. People talk about love languages and being able to show people affection in the way, or show people love in the way that they can accept it. And so I decided to take video of Chili and I as an example of that, because Chili's nickname could be Stop Biting, because this is what she does. Now, I don't mind playing with her, but because the environment has caused my skin to, lose its strength, which is not normal. The way that people can easily bruise and be cut is not normal. Nature makes it so that you are durable, and it's the contamination as a strategy that makes bones so brittle that they break easily, and skin so thin that it can be easily abraded or cut into. So she is a very, very sturdy dog. She's very muscular, and she's very lean, and she's very heavy. And I have shown video of the bruising and some of the scratches that I have incurred in rehoming her. And I'm patient as I can be with her, but sometimes, when she's nipping and biting, I smack her because it's painful, and I'm like, stop it. And she's just a baby. She's still a puppy, so she doesn't know any better. When she gets excited, she'll start jumping. But I know she loves me, and I know that she loves me, and she knows that I love her, so much so that this is my life. Like, she is attached at my hip, sometimes so much so that I'll stumble over her, because she has to be right next to me all the time. So the reason that I'm sharing this with you is that understanding someone's love language is less about, these 4 categories with gift giving and service and all that. I mean, those things are important too, but there's nobody who doesn't like all of those things. I mean, so, that's not it. It depends on the circumstances and, what's going on, what might be helpful to a person. But, love as a language is fluid. To show someone you love them, you have to be willing to listen to them and observe that they enjoy this, but they don't like that. Because another person could not enjoy what they enjoy and like what they don't like. So my point in bringing this up, especially with Chili, because she is so aggressive in her play, in ways that Kobe never was. And that I have to appreciate that the way that she was raised before we got her, she may have understood some of the things that she does as okay. And so I can't penalize her for that if she's trying to show me affection in the way that someone else who may have done so with her could receive, because it's mixed messaging for her, especially when you're talking about people who are dealing with trauma. It is a form of conditioning, and the only way you can show love to another individual is to pay attention to and listen to what they tell you. So in terms of healing a relationship with someone who you have hurt and who is then willing to re-engage you and to try to reestablish that trust that was eroded or lost or needed to be built in the first place, you must be willing to listen to them when they say, I don't like that, or stop. Regardless of how you feel about it. You may be thinking, I don't know why that's such a big deal for you. Well, it doesn't matter if you don't think it's a big deal for you. I'm telling you, stop. I'm saying, I don't want you doing that to me. If other people are willing to accept you doing that, that's on them, but I am not. And you have to be willing to do that with every individual person. And when you think about, in context, the importance of being able to raise a lineage to 3 generations, parents have couples who really love each other and have chosen each other for eternity, and parents have a different motivation and level of patience with people who are in that kind of relationship with them. So that is your starting place. You have to have a healthy, intact family in order to begin to have the skills you need in order to deal with everybody else, because you will not have the same amount of patience with everybody else. And the reality is there are a plethora of cultures and heritages and the way that people live together and function together and talk to each other and communicate with each other. And you have to be able to leave your house and go visit someone else and be as comfortable in their house following their cultural traditions as you do in your own. You don't have to be there all the time, not the way you do at home. But for the time that you're there, you want to be able to enjoy them and be in relationship with them. And if what you're doing is triggering my old trauma or is literally abusive, then it's going to be a problem, and people aren't going to want you around. And you're not going to be able to heal the relationships with people who you have hurt. So, Chili is still learning. No, stop. Don't do that. I don't like that. Even within our own house, because, there are things that Jermaine can tolerate because he's stronger than I am now. My health has been so impacted by, everything that's happened that, he's much stronger than me. Yesterday or day before yesterday, he was playing around with me. He picked me up and I couldn't believe it. He just picked me up. And, he's been able to do that before. But when I think about my own, state of physical wellness, I wouldn't have been, I have been able to do it, but I wouldn't have been able to do it right now. And so when he did it, it surprised me. I was like, wow, But anyway, the point I'm making is that he would have a level of tolerance to her aggressive play than I do, because it would not hurt him as quickly as it does me, because my skin is so sensitive, and, and my muscles are sore all the time because, I'm irradiating all the, most of the time. So, and it's just a natural reaction, when she nips at me or she is jumping on me, the pain, my instinct is get off, stop, and so that could be misinterpreted as rejection or whatever have you. Anyway, I think I'm making my point just fine, and that you understand exactly what I'm saying. You have to be willing to take the time to listen to people. And when they tell you that they do not like something or they want you to stop, you stop, regardless of, whether you would be okay with it or not, or somebody else who you interact with and have a good relationship would be okay with it or not. And the last thing I'll say about that is just this is another example of my personal demeanor and presentation in terms of my character. There are some people who, in order to get through to them and to help them, you have to have a certain tenderness in your tone of voice, but they respond to that. They respond to the correction and are able to get themselves together and to turn themselves around so that they're doing the right thing in the right way. But then there are other people, because of the way that they were raised and because of what the way that their family culture functions, because of the things they've had to do and tolerate and to be able to endure and survive, that you can't talk to them like that. You can't, I have to use cuss words, and I have to, speak very aggressively and firmly, even in love, because that's what they understand. If I were to talk to them in a really nice and tender tone, they wouldn't take me seriously, and we wouldn't get anywhere. I need to get there quick when I'm dealing with these folks sometimes. but I love them the same. I don't, the love isn't different because I treat one of them or talk to them in a more tender voice. That's what they need. That's all they need. I don't have to do any more than that. So I hope that this also makes sense to you all in terms of working towards reconciliation and then reunification. Again, it'll all be a whole lot easier if we can live, even if we haven't fully regenerated, if we are in an environment where we can tell that the regeneration is happening and the healing is happening. You'll have a lot more patience with people when they come to you with their offering. So, it's an option, something for people to consider who are continuing to contribute to the environmental problems that are going on as well. Enjoy your Friday and your weekend.